Hi everybody, afternoon everybody. It's Thursday, it's Litsoc, and we are celebrating today as we are coming towards the end next week of LGBTQ History Month, and we're looking at all the range, not all the range, but a lot of range of texts from long ago to the modern day. And this was prompted by Annabelle, who's got her favourites, and we've all got favourites that we're going to talk about. And I'm going to start with long ago. Really only in the 20th century did this sort of LGBTQ start to emerge from the shadows, and as attitudes changed. But there is, of course, Oscar Wilde, who basically wore his homosexuality in plain sight and put it into his plays. But because he was such a celebrity, people tended to sort of perhaps not necessarily worry about it. They enjoyed the novels, even though they were controversial at the time. Somebody else will talk about those later. I'm going to start with Virginia Woolf's Orlando, which Virginia Woolf, one of the great modernists of the 20th century, very interesting woman, part of what was called the Bloomsbury group, who set up a new mode of living, much more very controversial. Gay people were part of it, but also bi people as well. And this was not her first novel, but it was a novel that she wrote specifically, published in 1928, for somebody she knew extremely well and loved, called Vita Sackville-West, and who was bisexual. Virginia Woolf, I don't think, would have seen herself as perhaps bisexual, but they certainly loved each other. Vita Sackville-West, if you are a gardener, as a lot of your parents are, and I am, definitely. Has a sort of dual role in Britain. She's bisexual, she lived as a bisexual, but she lived in this extraordinary place called Sissinghurst, and she'd grown up in a place called Knowle in Kent. It's a great big sort of almost palace, great big mansion, and because she was a girl, she didn't inherit it, and it was one of the big griefs of her life. And Orlando is basically about he's born as a man, but changes his sex in the 19th century, and therefore has had a life of privilege, a life of enjoying life, doing things, becomes an ambassador. So this is all based on things that Vita Sackville-West had done with her husband, but sadly she couldn't hold down she had to be the wife, for example. But she's also refers to Knowle and the estate that Vita went on to look after and own, which is Sissinghurst in Kent, and which has the most amazing, fabulous garden. And it's a very, very special place, not only for its bi history, because her husband was bisexual as well, but also this amazing, gorgeous, simply gorgeous garden. It's a very special place. So Orlando, this is the current edition Penguin have produced, and this was a picture from 1913, so it covers the different sort of genders. It's not like a normal Virginia Woolf novel. It has quite a special atmosphere, and it's historical. It's looking back. It's also quite interesting about Orlando, what he looks like, and then what he changes to. It has something to say about the Victorian era. It's just one of those sort of dream-like novels. It's very, very beautiful to read. And this is how it starts. For there could be no doubt of his sex, though the fashion of the time did something to disguise it. So you have to think about earrings, in the ear, long hair for Elizabethan men, great big puffy clothes, big trousers, sort of drawers. And this is what they're doing, was in the act of slicing at the head of a moor which swung from the rafters. Noel had huge attics that were full of historical objects, and Vita had taken Virginia Woolf there. It was the colour of an old football, and more or less the shape of one, save for the sunken cheeks, a strand or two coarse dry hair like the hair on a coconut. Orlando's father, or perhaps his grandfather, struck it from the shoulders of a vast pagan who had started up onto the moon in the barbarian fields of Africa. And now it swung gently, perpetually, in the breeze which never ceased blowing through the attic rooms of the gigantic house of the lord who had slain him. So it begins in these attics, Noel, where he lives and will inherit, and then much later in the book, when he changes sex, barred from it forever. So it's Virginia Woolf's gift to her love, Vita Sackville West. Really worth checking out. Not the only novel written in the 20s to do with the gay community. Radcliffe Hall had written The Well of Loneliness, which was about lesbians, quite, again, very controversial. And so gay fiction continued to be throughout a lot of the 20th century up until the 1960s. Around, but not necessarily promoted. So, but things are very different now, which is a very good thing. Indeed. Okay, so Annabelle, you going to go, or is it Sophia? Sophia.
First, because if you're doing hot stuff, then I can touch on it a little bit more after you've done.
Okay, all right. So here's the perennial favourite.
I like the meticulous planning here. But yes, it is indeed a perennial favourite. The most borrowed library book, of course, this one.
Yes.
So, Sophia.
So yes, Heartstopper, and it is a comic as well, so it's quite easy to read in like that sort of way, but it's still really impactful as well. And it's about how a boy who's come out, and he's starts off. So he has a friend, and he's really sporty, and he hasn't really officially come out yet. So then they have a relationship. They become really, really good friends, and then and they kind of grows on that, and they learn to trust each other. And it kind of quite a big journey as well. How with them too, and they come across quite a lot of hate between lots of the different characters as well, and how not everyone will kind of accept for how they truly are, because some people might have this idea in their heads how some sporty people are, and they have to be quite really sporty and
macho.
Yeah,
masculine, overly masculine.
Yeah.
Yes.
And they don't really, but sometimes, but they can be really, they're really kind people, and you kind of have to understand that they have feelings too, so you can't really kind of just assume things about people like that. Yeah.
And the author's American, yes? Yeah. So it talks about high school, is that right? Yes. So it's relatable for all age groups, yes?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sort of.
Can I ask, is she American?
No,
I don't think she is, because it is not set in America, it's set in this country.
Charlie's in year 10 and Nick's in year 11 to begin with.
Yeah.
But
There you
then
go.
it's over a couple of years.
Yeah,
and then it goes on
The current
to Nick going to uni.
The current
and then
book is he's about to go to uni.
Do I think that because of the TV series? Is that
The TV series is very much set in this country as well,
Oh, okay.
with
Yeah.
British actors,
It's
with
English.
LGBT actors as well. Should point that out.
Kit Connor. I love Kit
And
Connor.
the public as well.
Kit Connor, yes. Yasmin Finney's the only American one. She's American. She's the only American one.
So it makes it very. So it does make it very relatable
Good.
to these guys because
Yes,
it's
of course.
set in this country. So
Absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah, great. Okay. Sophia, thanks for introducing it.
Thank you, Sophia. I think you teed up Annabelle nicely here.
Okay.
We're
Right.
going together.
Right.
Oh, sorry, double act, is it? Okay.
Yeah, she's my sidekick.
I'm her sidekick.
Right. Come
Okay.
sit.
You can perch on the arm if you want to. I think you look a bit uncomfortable there. Do you want
No,
to
it's
perch on
not.
the arm?
It's okay.
I'll start first, going more on Heartstopper. So Charlie, so he's the younger one, and he came out as gay the year before, and he faced loads of bullying for it, which caused him to have like what's the word? No.
Careful about spoilers. I know that a lot of people
He
have
had
read this.
it caused him to like trust people less, and also not to like what's the word like
Like have and like not be very like open,
confident.
and
Yeah.
open and stuff.
And then he's not very confident about himself. And then he meets Nick, this guy a year older than him, because they're in the same like form together. And then they become best friends, even though like Nick, Charlie's old best friend is telling him that it's not a good idea the whole time.
Oh yes, Tao.
Yeah, Tao's not very good in the
Tao
first book.
keeps convincing Charlie that Nick is straight,
Yeah.
and I saw this meme and it was like Tao.
And then, but the throughout like most of the first book, Nick he doesn't like, he's trying to suppress the fact that he like might have feelings for Charlie, because he doesn't want to feel out of place, because no one else in like
His rugby
he's
ladness.
no one else in his like rugby group. He doesn't think they'd accept him. Also, the people in his rugby group, though, are really like homophobic. Though
They're horrible.
They're really horrible. So yeah.
Apart from the three nice guys.
Oh yeah, yeah.
We love them.
Yeah, I can't remember their name though.
Oh,
So there's
there's
one beginning with S.
there's one beginning with A. I
Yeah.
can't remember the
All right, okay.
It doesn't-
Let's
Okay.
let's move on to okay. Why is this so popular? Why is this the most borrowed book in the library?
It is the most borrowed book in the library because I think it's just everyone can relate to it, even if you're not like gay. You can
You
still
can't relate to Nick. I mean Charlie that much. Some of the later books.
yeah, but like a lot of people can just like feel because it's quite normal. And especially in the TV show, the actors aren't supermodels, and they're just basically just normal teenagers. And I like how it showcases like how hard it can be when like you suppress things as well, and it kind of shows people that you can just be yourself, and if even others might judge you, you've just got to push past, and eventually they'll accept who you are.
And it also like highlights really important issues. And like I'm not going to spoil anything because it happens in the later books, but like and how to help people who have those issues.
So lots of teenage issues are covered. Yes.
There's a good supporting cast as well.
Yeah.
So you got the two main characters who you mentioned in
Yeah.
great detail, but obviously
Oh,
you got the sister. You mentioned Tao. There's
Yeah.
what's her
Elle.
name? Elle.
And there's
so-
also Tara and Darcy.
Oh, I
and
love Tara.
Aled or
Yeah, there's-
Aled, but then in the
He always
TV
gets
show,
forget-
his eyes.
He always gets forgotten though.
Yeah, he's the book.
He's the bookworm as well.
He's got
He
a
should be
book
more
about.
prominent.
I think he has got a book about him though, but
Okay.
I haven't read it.
No, it's called
Radio Silence.
Radius. Yeah.
Yeah, there's the expanded universe as well, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The non-graphic novel.
Oh, yeah, there's one
so
about
many books.
his Charlie's sister, and one about Nick and Charlie.
The
You wanna talk
last
about that?
book is
But
coming
they're-
out soon.
So
They're
Now or
not
later?
graphic novels
you
though.
Okay.
do both the text and the drawings.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right.
And she like written and then
Yeah.
turned it into a
I
graphic
saw this
novel.
thing on YouTube and it was like how to draw the Heartstopper character.
That's in one of the books. It's in the yearbook.
It's in the yearbook. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you for
Thank you for that.
extolling the virtues once more about Heartstopper. Yes.
Book one.
But we have a
Okay.
few more, don't we? In our
one of
lab
5.
here.
Right.
Start
So I've got 3 by the same author.
Okay.
I'm doing
So I've got
some with
3 by Adam Silver.
Okay, talk about them all at the same time if that's the
Yeah,
case.
try and do it so that other people
Okay.
have got a chance.
So I've got first, which is the classic. They
Right,
both
hold
die
it up
at the
So
end.
that the camera can see. Tell us what it is.
So this went like TikTok viral a few years ago, and
What's it called?
it's called They Both Die at the End.
Right.
It's about the death cast. The death cast are people who give you a phone call the day you're gonna die.
Oh, you've talked about this before, haven't you?
Yeah, but only
Yes.
briefly. And
Yes.
I've read this book so many times. It's
Yeah.
so rereadable.
She's always telling me to read it. It's really annoying.
I know you haven't read it yet.
Yeah,
She's
it's
telling
probably
you
because you
again
keep
now.
on nagging me to read it.
She's doing it again now,
It's so
so.
much easier if you just read it. And
It probably would, yeah.
Hello. Can
I might read it and
come join
pretend I
us.
haven't.
Okay.
To annoy you.
And then,
Right.
so It's about Rufus and Mateo. They're both two boys with very different backstories, who have never seen each other before. They both get the phone call to say that they're going to die. And there's this app which you can log on to, and it's like your end day friend. And these two boys become really good friends through the app. And then they meet up and they spend their last end day together doing all the things that they've wanted to do before. And definitely a spoiler, but they both die at the end. It's great.
Kill them, yeah.
And then
fulfills.
So do you
Yeah.
get in both of them? Do you feel
Yeah.
for both of them?
I do, because at the end, like, it takes you by surprise, even with the
Even
title.
as what, right.
And I feel like when I first saw this, I was like, oh, the title looks a bit dodgy. Like, it just tells you the ending, but it really doesn't, because there's so much of a backstory, and you learn so many different things about the characters, and they have two different perspectives on them as well. So they've got Rufus and then Mateo, and then Rufus and Mateo, to see how the different people feel about having their end days.
Okay, anybody else read this? No?
No? Oh,
It's an
okay.
Annabelle. It's an Annabelle special.
You need to read it.
Right.
And
Okay,
then
so
Like, offended.
There's
No one else has
the
read it.
prequel.
Oh, it's a prequel.
This is my favourite one ever. It's so good.
Better than
So-
Heartstopper.
No, it's better than They Both Die at the End, I think. If you were going to read it, I think reading this one first would give you the best one, because you don't have to read that one to know. You could just read this as a starter. So this is about the first.
The first person.
Yeah, so what happens is when
This dystopia.
Yeah,
Yeah.
when Death Cast first come out, and at the ceremony where it like comes out and it like is about to be working, they these two boys, Orion and Valentino, they meet at the event, and I think it's Valentino or Orion, I can't remember which one it is actually, but one of them has a heart condition, so they've been waiting to hear that they're going to die for years now, and this is just a really easy way, because they know how to fulfill their end day, and they know how to they know to live their life to the fullest, and it's not going to be a surprise. And then the other one is really he just signs up for it because he feels like it's a good thing to do, and he never thinks he's gonna die. And then one of them gets the end day call, and the other one doesn't. Then there's lots of plot twists, like things come out like false information, and it makes people panic and worry. And because it's the first, no one knows what's going on, and no one knows if you can completely trust it. So I quite like this one, because by the end of it, you don't know who's going to die.
Oh, I
Like by
see.
the end?
Okay, so there's
Yeah.
a mystery then.
Wait,
No, because there's a plot twist that I'm not going to say. By the end of it, it's like, it keeps you on the edge of your seat. Like, when I read this, I think I read the whole book in 2 sittings, because you just can't put it down. And I feel like it's got really gripping thing to it. I've read it so many times as well. Okay,
And
now
the
the
next one
third
is
one. History Is All You Left Me. This one is like a standalone, but it's got like kind of the same. It's not part of the They Both Die at the End series, but it's got kind of like the same vibe to it. So it's about this boy and his best friend, ex-boyfriend, dies, and it has 2 different perspectives. It has lots of different perspectives. It has now and then. So it has like, you've basically got to figure out a lot of things as you're going. It's not like a murder mystery, but it's like you're figuring out plot twists, and then they don't mention important details until the end, and you're like, oh my gosh. And then there's like reasons, like there was a call and he never knew why he called, and then he died, so we could never like listen to the
is that not
voicemail.
a spoiler?
And no,
Oh.
it's like things like that
Yes.
that just they're
Really
throughout the
gripping, aren't they?
book,
Things like that, yes.
and it's like a lot of out loud and gut wrenching at the same time, and it's just, and then there's this other guy, Jackson, who's the boy who's died, new boyfriend, and they're meant to hate each other, and they have for years, but they've never really met properly, and they meet each other, and then they realise that they're like good friends.
What's the
And
title of this one?
History is All You Left Me.
Why is it called that?
Because it goes like now and then, and this dude who dies moves off to a different college they hadn't seen in years,
Right.
and they hadn't made any new memories, so they had to like remember the history, and they were scared that they were going to forget and
Okay.
stuff.
And he goes in twice.
So
Yeah.
oh,
This is
well,
the last book. I read this first, and then
You've all
I
read this
told,
one, yeah?
and then I told Annabelle to read it.
no, I watched the movie first.
No, you didn't.
Yeah, I did.
No, you didn't.
Okay.
Do you want to start, Annabelle?
Okay, so red, white, and royal blue. The amount of times I have watched this movie is really bad,
It's
but
on Prime.
I know it's really good. I would recommend.
Let's talk about the book, though.
Okay,
The book's better.
so it is about when the President of America, her son, falls in love with a prince, the Prince of England, and
UK.
yeah.
Yes.
and so
But you kind of skipped ahead a bit.
no,
Yeah, because at first they hate each other.
yeah, first they hate each other. So
Right.
Alex,
Except, well, no, not really, because only the president's son hates. So the president's son Alex hates Henry, the Prince of Wales, but Henry never hated Alex. But basically, Alex always looked up to the prince, and then when he got when his mum got elected, the first time he met Henry was at the Rio
Melbourne.
Olympics.
no. Oh wait, no.
Yeah,
That was,
and then Henry was like really cold to him, but
there's a reason why,
there is a reason why, yeah.
and it's nothing.
But so from then on, he hated him because he was like he had just become like the first son.
It was the
and then-
Melbourne Climate Conference. In
It
the
was not.
movie.
Oh well, yeah. And then he like hates him from then on because he was like, "Why were you so horrible to me?" But then it turns out, but then there's like a whole have to go to this royal wedding, and then
It's so funny.
and then like
Something
Alex. Can we spoil it?
No, we can't. I mean, it's in like the first 1 second.
It's in like the
It's
in
like
the first
as
chapter.
soon as you open the book, you're like,
yeah.
it literally says it.
Which forces them to pretend to be friends, and then they like go from pretending to be friends to actually being friends,
and then
yeah.
And then it's really cool because there's like plot twists as well. There's like a few things, and also a lot gets in the way. And
Like
at
the
the
Queen.
end, there's a massive plot twist.
There is.
And how is the attitude of the
Oh.
public displayed? in this
It's
book?
Oh, they're really like it's really good. It's more like they get like the Queen is really like homophobic towards Henry. And she's basically she like knew his entire life that he was gay, but then wait, hang on.
What about the wider public? Is what Miss Honey is
Oh,
asking.
right, yeah.
How is it reported
but
in the media?
it's not.
Because
It's not.
It's
not.
We don't see that at all.
well,
Like
no.
public thing.
We
No.
can't say anything, otherwise it was
I
something.
can't really.
Okay.
We
But
can't say.
at first it's not. But then so the only people who really know is Henry's sister and the Queen.
That's it.
And the Queen just basically told him that he wasn't allowed to be gay and told him that he just needed to lie because it wasn't like appropriate.
Yeah.
So, is it our previous queen?
No, it's
It's
fake.
It's
It's
fake
an alternative
Queen.
reality.
It's an
Yeah.
alternative
It's
reality. Okay, I'm
alternative.
just trying to.
Yeah.
We've never had.
No.
And we have had royals who've been gay, but it's
Yeah,
closely
it's
guarded.
Yeah,
secret.
it's found
Yeah.
upon.
yeah.
Yeah.
But then
And,
Yeah.
so yeah,
um,
it's not really like shown how the
It's in
public
Braveheart.
reacts.
You've seen Braveheart.
yeah, and also like
Is an example.
the general public, they're not really interested, but the media and the news are quite interested in the relationship of Henry and Alex. And I think that's because it's two famous people becoming friends, and they're both like really, really famous. And when they become friends, it's just perfect for the media. But I feel like
because it had to be perfect.
Yeah.
Because they had to like pretend, but then it came out of the blue, so everyone was like, "Where did this come from?" And they were really like,
yeah.
And then the media became really focused.
And then
on
at the end, I feel like the general public were a lot more supportive than the close family, and I feel like that can show that like sometimes you've got to keep like some people who are close to you. They're not as easy accepting as others.
It's only his grandma and brother though.
No, it's more. And
Is it?
like, and also the media, and it's just really like overwhelming. But then when you see that all these people outside the world don't care, it just makes you feel a lot better.
Like not caring, they were like really supportive.
Yeah, that's the point. Okay, that's the end of my
There we
5
go.
books.
Well done, guys. Well done.
That was like too small to sit two people.
Reminding us of them. Thank you. Okay. Right. So, who would like to come next?
I think everyone's got something they want to talk about, right? More or less.
Yeah.
So who would like to go next? Not Eleanor, no. Okay, but
Josie, you go next. Thank you. That would be great. Nice seeing you.
have you got something, Mr. Allen, that you want to talk about?
I'm happy to. I spoke to Miss Huntley about something. I might actually take a couple of seats.
Yeah, why not?
Yeah.
Why not?
Yeah, so
Have it-
actually, we used to be able to see Hannah. I'm rather gifted with loft. There we go.
So I think Heartstopper's been talked about a lot. So I'll talk about Alice Oseman's some of her other novels. So her first novel was Solitaire. It was published when she was really young. She started to try and publish it when she was 17, and she got a publishing deal when she was 19. The book follows Charlie, who's the main character, and Heartstopper's older sister. It's a bit darker than Heartstopper. It follows some of the later themes in the novels, but also her experience having to deal with that while also having her own life, while worrying about your brother, but also you want to still... She's in sixth form, she's in, I think, year 12 when the book's taking place. But yeah, I think it's really interesting, and it's really interesting to see how, like, mental health and sexuality kind of interconnect with, like, also not necessarily it's you yourself, but people around you, and how that can affect you. And then her other book, which was her second book, is Radio Silence. That follows Aled, who got cut out of a TV show for Heartstopper, which was a bit sad about. But he's he in the book creates this like almost podcast web episode kind of thing, and his mother's not very supportive of this, but he finds support in other places through friends, but he's quite an interesting character, and quite a big bit of his identity is that he's LGBTQ+. He's he secretly has a boyfriend, and then additionally to that, it's kind of later implied that he's like gender non-conforming as well. So it's quite, but by the end of the book you get to see him how he really wants to be, whereas earlier in the book you see how like family issues can also hold people back from being their true self. And then slightly more classic, I want to talk about The Importance of Being Earnest. I have Oscar Wilde on my list.
Oh, yeah, there we
So
go.
it felt only right. I think The Importance of Earnest, I'm doing it in English, but I find it so funny. Every lesson is so funny. I think the idea of bunburying is really interesting. I think there's a lot of references under that you can... implications. I was quite interested in Oscar Wilde's life as well around that. I listened to some podcast episodes on his life, and it's quite interesting, I think, how he still was fairly, as you said, was fairly open about being gay despite public perception of it, and it's quite interesting as well, like the government's reaction to that.
He led this very weird double life.
Yeah.
He had a respectable, had a beautiful wife, lovely children, but it was incredibly, it was a personality right almost from the get-go of leaving, even at Oxford, and it was just hiding in plain sight. It was just extraordinary.
Yeah, it feels quite extraordinary that he denied that he was gay in the trial. He actually did then tried to sue. When all the information revealed about him was true, I think. And also I found out that when he was in prison, once he was found guilty of gross indecency, he then asked for books by authors who were also done for the same charges as he was. So I think, despite the world he lived in, I think it's quite interesting and in ways inspiring to see that he was not scared to be himself and didn't care about what society had to say. He, until the very end of his life, would stay strong in his beliefs.
Stephen Fry's very interesting on Wilde. So is Rupert Everett as well, because they both played him in different sorts of films, and of course they're both gay, and they've had to come out publicly. They've been some instances forced out, and same sort of celebrity acting, theatrical life, which has usually been a safe space, but of course when the media get hold of things, it was the same for Wilde. So can you explain to the others, bumbring, what does it mean?
So it's a made-up term in earnest, which kind of describes this kind of doing activities that aren't necessarily fully societally acceptable necessarily, and it's associated with having this kind of double life of doing. It's specifically, there's a character called Algernon, and he uses it because he has this fake friend called Bunbury, who is repetitively
really
almost dying and ill, and he uses this fake character to be able to then get out of situations that he doesn't want to deal with. So.
I love it when Lady Bracknell said, well, perhaps you'd better get on with it then. Yes. Yeah.
What was the Oscar Wilde fact you gave me in Paris when we saw his do you remember? We shared our favourite Oscar Wilde facts as we were looking for his tombstone, and I can't remember. You had a really good one. And it was something about his time in court. Do you remember it? I know.
Didn't he compliment or I don't know, some of the comments he made in court quite suggestive.
Yes, they were.
He was very unlucky because he was up against the barrister of the age, really was, and who went on to have a most extraordinary career. So, and a father who was absolutely awful of his lover. So, yeah, just a combination of factors. Awful.
Then he would hold these false soirees and invite the gentlemen of the town, and then of course it would turn into.
Well, there was rumours around that there was people who were at the time would be termed as gross indecency, but in Parliament, with the future potential Prime Minister. So part of it was that they couldn't let Wilde get away with it because it would. What is that saying about the government? So.
Yeah, absolutely. So. Thank you, Josie. That's
excellent.
Really
Really good stuff there. Thank you.
History and a bit of contemporary as well. So, Mr. Allen, would you like to come and go next, or Hannah?
Or Phoebe.
Go on, Hannah, you go.
Yeah.
You go. Should we find a copy?
Yeah, it's here. Did we find it?
What are we looking for, Mr. Allen? Here.
Cat When You Land.
Oh, I'll get it now. Carry on, Hannah. Sorry.
I've got On Earth We're Briefly Gorgeous by Ocean Vuong. I read this a while ago. I think I've read it a couple of times. And he's a poet as well. I really recommend his poetry. It's so beautiful. This book is in the form of a letter. So it's this man's letter to his mother, the whole book. And what's really interesting is she can't actually read it. She can't read. She was never taught to. So it's just a way for him to express his feelings. and it's semi-autobiographical. I've watched a lot of his interviews, it's really interesting. And you can tell from his poetry as well, like the elements of his life that were true. So it's about the son of a Vietnamese immigrant in America, and it's set during like the 2000s, and it's during the opioid crisis, like it's really dark. And he's gay, and he's in this quite toxic relationship that it's very nuanced and interesting, because a lot of these like coming of age books, they're lovely and like idealistic, and which is lovely to read, but this is like quite pretty dark, but every page is just so beautifully written. It's like poetry all stretched out in prose, and it's just any page you open it, you just don't want to stop. So much listing and imagery, and I feel like it's quite difficult sometimes to write in a like beautiful way with imagery about modern life, because it's like, what you're going to list, like shops or whatever, but the way they do it is just amazing. And
Hannah's been in a habit of
no.
meticulously post-it noting here favourite sections of it. So I want to know, do you have a favourite?
Oh, but then I would run out of post-notes, because it would be
fair enough. Every page would have one. Okay.
So it's kind of like a journey, but it's like really, you know, when you're talking to someone and you just go on these tangents, or you're writing a letter and just back and forth. It's the same sort of thing. It springs forward to the future and back in the past, and different memories, and they pile on top of each other as you sort of start to slowly understand what's going on, because at first he just sort of dives into it and you're really confused, and by the end you have such a strong connection with this character, or the author, I guess, because if he's writing it. I really, really do recommend it. But yeah, be careful because it's super dark. Yeah.
Was this the one that was shortlisted for the Booker Prize?
I'm not sure if it was.
I feel like it's one of those awards.
It's been on
Maybe the Costa, perhaps.
How is only one person taken out? That's so bad.
That might.
You all have to.
I'll take it out and then it'll be.
A couple of years.
I'll just
Oh,
take
wait,
it in and out and then not read it to make it.
Oh, I see. Well, I could just stamp it with it and then make it look like it's been taken out again. That's our end game.
A few times, like maybe, and then it'll be long.
Is there a reason why you want to promote this book? Because it make it look like it's been borrowed a lot more. But I mean, Hannah's doing a very good job of.
Yeah, she is.
It's all letter apart from the beginning, and it just says "Let me begin again," which is like really.
It's a great
opening line,
isn't it?
You don't quite know what it means until the end, I think, or you never quite know what it means. Each time you read this book, it just more and more layers. Oh, okay, I'm not going to say any more because, like, really, you've just got to experience it, and
And it's an experience, isn't it?
yeah.
Very immersive one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this is impossible to read in more than one sitting. But anyway.
Hooks you in. All right. Thank you.
Very much.
Thank you very much. Phoebe, would you like to go next?
So, this is the picture of Dorian Gray, also by Oscar Wilde. It's the only novel he ever wrote, I think.
Yeah, it is.
And I actually haven't read all of it yet. I'm still reading it, so I probably won't do it very much justice, but it's fine. But it's about Dorian Gray is, well, I'll read the blurb. Mm-hmm. Dorian is a good-natured young man until he discovers the power of his exceptional beauty. As he gradually sinks deep into the frivolous, glamorous world of selfish luxury, he apparently remains physically unchanged by the stresses of his corrupt lifestyle and untouched by age. But up in his attic, hidden behind a curtain, his portrait tells a different story. It's really interesting how, like, obviously I haven't finished it, but it will be really interesting how that happens in the book. But and I love the imagery that Wilde uses. Like, for the first paragraph, it's the studio was filled with the rich odour of roses, and when the light summer wind stirred amidst the trees of the garden, there came through the open door the heavy scent of lilac, or the more delicate perfume of the pink flowering thorn. Like, it very much centres on, like, senses in the first, like, couple of paragraphs, and I love how it, like, makes it's an atmosphere of, like, this, like, like the summer, but, like, really, like, dusky, and, like, I don't know how to describe it, but it's so good. I love it. Anyway, that's...
It's almost overwhelming, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's...
sensory imagery.
Yeah.
And that goes on as he starts to revel in collecting and luxury. So it has a lot to say about the 19th century imperial trade and what's coming in
and the decadence of it all.
Juxtaposition as well. You have that simple image of the portrait compared with the luxurious lifestyle. It is wonderfully contrasted.
Yeah.
Oh yes, of course. Yeah. Absolutely.
Obviously, I can't say much about it now, but I think everyone should at least read it once in their lives because it's very good. Anyway.
It continues to be remade.
The Ben Barnes one's not very good.
Oh yeah, I've heard about that one.
Don't mince your words.
Yeah.
Anything to add? Anyone?
Beautiful. I hope you enjoy it.
I will. Yeah.
It's very interesting in its influence as well because it went on to influence in a very odd way Evelyn Waugh, who is not somebody who I would have thought of connected with gay literature at all, but Brideshead Revisited, which is the most extraordinary story of a relationship and something I really loved, and we had a most extraordinary series when I was your age, I was your age, Hannah and Josie, and that's the story. Brideshead is the story of a great big house, a family, and at its heart is Sebastian and his relationship with Charles, so Dorian Gray influenced. It's clear you can clearly see it in the character of Sebastian. Hannah.
I thought that book was quite gay because I read it and I read some articles about it and stuff.
Yeah, but it's got things to do with family and parenting, hasn't it? And also the Catholic religion as well. But so Charles has a homosexual relationship with Sebastian, but then he moves into middle age and changes, whereas Sebastian doesn't. So and then of course that's gone on to influence Saltburn as well. So have you seen that?
Yeah.
Okay, right.
Quite the culture vulture. Terrible, is it, Mr. Allen?
Terrible.
Oh, okay.
Like I've heard it was.
No, as in just. Or
No. I mean, wait here. Wait here, Mrs.
we
Gardner.
can discuss after Litsoc, but
Okay, yeah, that's a.
it tried to do too much and it didn't do anything successfully.
I haven't seen it, so.
No, I
okay.
haven't seen it either.
Right.
I have no intention of doing so.
Okay. Mr. Allen's clearly been whispering in your ear.
I have heard that Saltburn was very good. That's
Okay.
what's been circulating.
It's okay. Clearly polarising, isn't it? So.
I think that's fair. Yeah.
Right. Anyway, thank you, Phoebe, for
Yes, thank you, Phoebe.
talking to us about
Thanks. Yeah.
Mr. Allen.
Yes. Yeah. Right.
Okay. There's a biscuit left. I might
Would
have
you
to
like
take that
it?
on the way.
Yeah.
On the way back out. Yeah, I was too late for
Sorry,
tea,
Annabelle.
but no, it's quite all right. I just decided to talk about this one because it's one we actually now study in Year 7, which I think is great that we are trying to regenerate, I guess, the curriculum a little bit to have a little bit more diversity, a little bit more acceptance and tolerance towards different literature, which I think traditionally English has been very much read a book by an old white male, right? And we hopefully are starting to diversify and open up different platforms for young people like yourself, with Elizabeth Acevedo's Clark When You Land. Now, it is fascinating because it is LGBTQ plus literature, but that isn't the central theme. The central theme is family and longing, so there's two daughters of the same father, but the father was living a double life, and they only discover that they're related when his plane goes down. Okay, and they live such different lives that one is living in the Dominican Republic in I wouldn't quite say squalor, but in less than
difficult
difficult circumstances.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yes, whereas the other is living in quite a affluent sort of lifestyle in New York. So the two of them then meet and they find out about the past. It's written in contrapuntal narrative, so you do have the two different sides. So you hear from Zofia and not Zofia. Sorry, I'm mixing it up with our Catcher Ballon because she's coming tomorrow.
Yes, indeed.
Yes, but it's written Camino and Yahira. That's it. Yeah, but in verse as well. So it's quite a shift from your traditional literature. So there's so many different things that it touches on. But Camino has the support of her girlfriend throughout all of it, and that's what helps her discover more and more about her family and the journey they go together. Yeah, so it is pitched to a younger audience, but I've read it before we studied. So 2-3 years ago, I think, when we put it into the awesome anthology of fiction, anthology of amazing fiction. Yeah. Yes.
With the anthology, that was the only book that we didn't really go into in detail. That and
we read
what's it called? The universe one.
The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
We read one or two chapters.
Yeah, we just read through it, and then we didn't really touch on it because we spent too long on the other ones. But
we went into so much detail.
I think the anthology is really interesting because it's got so many different genres, and some of the books, when I first read them, I just knew they weren't for me, and other ones I bought afterwards.
Nice.
The Gifted, the Talented, and Me. I like
that one.
That one's very funny.
We didn't
I do
go
like
with that one at all.
Yeah.
Didn't you?
No, wait, actually, I think we read one page.
What is the
Oh yes, actually no, you wouldn't have. So in year 7 now, instead of studying one text, we've got an anthology that has 7 different texts in it, and there's the first 2 to 3 chapters roughly of each one. But they're all of Phoebe. Were you? No.
She joined in year 9, so she wouldn't.
Sorry, yeah, of course she did. So there's different genres. So there's Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, so sci-fi. You've got Mortal Engines, which is like steampunk. You've got The Gifted, the Talented, and Me, which is sort of like Bildungsroman. That's sort of coming of age story. You've got Clap When You Land, which is the contrapuntal narrative. Wolf Hollow, Rooftoppers, and the new one, Miss Hadji Alexandra added this year. Because I actually did this.
Other Words for Home.
Other Words for Home.
Other
Words for Home. That's correct.
No, we didn't do that one.
And that was new. That was new this year.
Makes more sense. I got it.
It was really sad because my favourite book in this anthology was Mortal Engines because I'd read that before,
Mm.
and then we went into so much detail that everyone hated it by the end because we spent about a whole lesson on the first sentence.
The dried out bed of the North Sea. Yeah.
It was. They went into so much detail about that book, and so.
Didn't you come as the girl for your
I
book
did.
day with the scar?
I did, and I had a PVA glue scar. It was actually really fun.
When it was World Book
It's World Book Day in 2 weeks' time. Don't forget. If I remember.
Oh my god! I tried to read the third, but I couldn't.
The last book, it's not.
I didn't like
doesn't have a good ending.
I didn't like when it switched from what were their names?
Hester and
Tom, I think.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, I didn't like it when they switched from them to
the daughter.
Yeah.
I hated the daughter, but I pushed through, and then I pushed through, and then I didn't like.
It's good to see this all talking about it.
So
Yeah.
I regretted
time
doing
later.
that. I hated how she just ran away.
So now
Is that
I
your
have,
And they
favourite
all
one then?
hated
In
Hester at
anthology?
the end.
I have 4 of the books from the series.
Yeah, so I do quite like
So now I
Rooftoppers,
just
but
had
it's
2 that I
quite
had.
I mean, Rooftoppers
And I
beautifully
Don't
written.
read
Catherine
them.
down.
Don't
It's
read
great. But
The ending's
you should read if you haven't read it
she was
already.
my
The
favourite
Poet
the whole
X.
time, and I
You should
I
read.
hated
That's her other one.
the
That's
daughter.
before
I
that.
hated her so much.
Poet
She
X. I
always
think I like that
oh
too.
my mum's so ugly. I hate
It's
her.
written same sort of style. Yeah.
Only one narrator, but yes.
Some
Yeah.
kind of realization of how her mother felt, and that
And
never
then she
happened.
didn't.
Never happened.
Didn't she die? I think they all.
Die at the end.
Spoiler, isn't it?
I can't remember. I read it like.
Yes, promote the book.
It's not gonna.
It's
be
what I do, I
like-
promote books,
when
my
you
job.
recommend things last year because they've got. I think her name was Ren, and she was really annoying.
Oh yeah.
She was so annoying.
Like the
I really
kitchen.
wanted to stop reading it. And half of the book doesn't even have Hester in it. Half of the book doesn't because she runs off.
Oh.
because her daughter hates her, and so does her.
That like ruins the plot.
Yeah, and then she went all evil or something.
Yeah. The first book was the best. I thought the second book was alright, but I couldn't get past the third book.
I did, but I wish I didn't.
Fair enough.
The last book, because the last book, I think the last book. It was like it was really hard because I didn't like the main character of the third book, but I was pushing through because I liked the other two books, and I thought maybe the next book I would like better. But then it still had the girl, and she was still a main character, and she was still really annoying. And then it didn't have a good ending. It had a really sad ending.
I didn't mind the ending. I thought it was good.
I mean, it was a good ending.
Oh, it's like Saltburn Part 2.
You've reached Sam. I didn't like the ending of that.
Oh, neither did I. That was so sad.
Really
A sense of an ending, Miss Huntley. Maybe you should exhume.
A lot more with that.
No,
Yeah.
it was a good ending. It
That
was
was-
sad, especially when her
This has gone back way before
That
these
was
guys here,
sad.
but you know, it could be a good one to revisit.
It makes sense if you've
Yeah.
actually read the book.
Yeah, I know, but like.
We need to call him to order now.
It's kind of.
All right, okay, folks.
Okay. As time is rushing on, so Cat When You Land, and she's also written, hasn't she, The Poet X?
Yeah.
Yes. Which is a coming-of-age novel and dealing with sort of family issues as well as societal issues in America. She's very talented. Really talented.
She is.
I think. Yeah. So thank you, Mr. Allen, for reminding them of the anthologies.
Very
That was
brief,
great.
but
Yes. We love the anthology.
May I have my biscuit?
Yes, go on then,
Yeah,
Mr.
sorry.
Allen.
Fine,
Help yourself.
thank
Something you want to...
I can if you want. I mean, I'm looking at the time. I'll be brief.
Okay.
Brief. So, I want to talk about Conundrum
Oh yes, Conundrum.
by Jan Morris. This is very much the T in the LGBTQ plus acronyms. So, Jan Morris, born James Morris, Welsh writer, best known for transitioning for Everest, Coronation Everest, which was the story of getting the Everest, the successful story of Hillary and Tenzin climbing Everest back in time for the coronation, and transitioned to become Jan Morris. And now this was written 1970s, I think, something like that. And she's actually written a preface to say this book is already a period piece. It was written in 1970s and decidedly of the 1970s, and the world, of course, has greatly changed, certainly in terms of LGBTQ plus. Now, what I would say about this does talk about her transitional journey. She had to go, here's a bit of trivia for you, she had to go to Morocco to have the operation because it just wasn't done here. But the media reception was perhaps a bit more open-minded and friendly than you might think, because obviously when you see about transgender being reported in the media, there's a lot of hostility, a lot of transphobia around. Actually, it was a bit more sympathetic back then, because I think maybe it was seen as more of a curious thing to be doing rather than, you're corrupting people's minds or any of that kind of thing that you read about now. But it is, because obviously, as a cisgender person, I do have a tremendous amount of sympathy. You feel like you're born in the wrong body. It's like, wow, how must that feel? I can't really begin to comprehend that. But she, really writes about it very, very beautifully. And I'm just going to read you the end of the sort of first chapter, which explains it better than I could. In any case, I myself see the conundrum in another perspective, for I believe it to have some higher original meaning. I equate it with the idea of soul or self, and I think of it not just as a sexual enigma, but as a quest for unity. For me, every aspect of my life is relevant to that quest, not only the sexual impulses, but all the sights, sounds, and smells of memory, the influences of buildings, landscapes, comradeships, the power of love and of sorrow, the satisfactions of the senses as of the body. In my mind, it is a subject far wider than sex. I recognise no prudency to it, and I see it above all as a dilemma, neither of the body nor of the brain, but of the spirit. Still, for 40 years after that rendezvous with Sibelius, composer, a sexual purpose dominated, distracted, and tormented my life. The tragic and irrational ambition, instinctively formulated but deliberately pursued, to escape from maleness into womanhood. So yeah, it's very much a sort of almost intangible. It's like it's not so much feeling the absence of being female, but just like I can't exist in this. I need feeling the absence of a female self, if you like. I'm putting it a lot more crudely than she does.
Well, it's an extraordinary story because
definitely
that persona, James's persona was so army.
almost action man, like a young man
absolutely.
adventuring because
You get
in the
much- I think you get
1950s,
much
post
more
war.
of that in the Everest story.
Coronation. Oh yeah, very much so.
Yeah.
There's a sense of boy's own adventure, ripping yarns almost. Getting out there and conquering the world's highest mountain.
Yeah.
So it's a very very ahead of its time, if to not put too crude an expression. It's a very pioneering book and a very important book in the annals of LGBT, particularly T literature.
Yeah, and a year before she died, she talked to Michael Palin about her journey, her life, because she's a very, very famous travel writer as well, of the 20th century. But the best book, travel book ever written on Venice, in my view. Absolutely stunning, beautiful prose.
His travelogue's great. And of course, I just mentioned ripping yarns there, which is what he actually did. There you go. Exactly. 6 degrees of separation.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
So
I'm lucky enough to have a relatively supportive family and a very supportive wife.
Oh, hugely supportive wife. Yeah. I mean, who stuck with him and her through a lot. So
yeah, absolutely.
So there we go.
Okay, so there we are. LGBTQ History Month is marked, but never forgotten much. Litsoc, is it? That's good. Yeah.
Indeed.
We
Okay.
have a wonderful library now, full of lovely texts. So,
easy to spot.
Yeah.
All right. So we're going to take a hiatus next week because of you know what, but World Book Day.
World Book Day.
World Book Day. We're going to have a bumper quiz. Bumper World Book Day quiz.
Because I'm coming as the Cheshire Cat. Because me and my
Are
friend
you?
in the group, Alice is going to White Rabbit.
Loads of people are doing Alice in Wonderland.
Yeah, no, my whole friend group is. So I'm the Cheshire Cat. Elsa's the White Rabbit. Amelia's the Mad
The Upper Prize.
Fantastic. Looking forward to seeing that. All right. Should we wave goodbye to the camera? Let's wrap up. Okay. Bye. Bye.